Hey guys, and welcome to Film Study, where we analyze films in various ways to make you see it in a different concept, and change a part of a scene and figure out how the rest of the story would play out based on a single change in one scene.
Alright, quiet on the set.
Production.
If you have an idea,
The Comic-Con Icon Award is presented to a giant.
that you genuinely think is good,
From the world of comic and popular arts.
don't let some idiot talk you out of it.
And it's even more of an honor to present the Comic-Con Icon Award to my friend and the ultimate comic book icon, Stan Lee.
You made me lose my girl. Now I'm gonna make you lose yours. How's that sound?
There has been a lot of stir recently about a possibility for an upcoming fourth installment of a Spider-Man movie, but not one including Tom Holland, even though we wouldn't mind. At the end credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, we see Eddie Brock sitting in a bar speaking about the Avengers, or at least members of the Avengers and Thanos. Paying close attention, I wondered how this bartender knew about them, but it's not that hard as it was a team of superheroes who were worldwide, so anybody and everybody could have seen them. You didn't have to be involved with them to know who they were. The point being, Marvel likes to include Easter eggs in all of their movies and series. The intention of this scene was to give us a hint as to a collab with Venom and Spider-Man, which could either be with Tom Holland's version or Tobey again. It would actually make more sense if they made it with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, as it technically was already introduced to Tobey. When the popularity of Spider-Man No Way Home started to die down, as of recently, we saw some articles come out about Sam Raimi praising Tobey McGuire for his role in the film. Raimi admitted that seeing the trio back in the MCU threequel was, quote, so much fun, while also revisiting his theatrical experience while watching the movie. The Marvel director also offered high praise for McGuire, saying that he was awesome as always, adding, "It was so much fun. I loved No Way Home, and the audience I was with went crazy. It was delightful to watch Alfred play his role, and William Dafoe, just seeing these guys take it to the next level. And Tobey was awesome as always. The best word I can say is it was refreshing to me." Given that Raimi's next project is a Doctor Strange sequel, the director's comments could fuel discussion about McGuire's potential comeback as Spider-Man in another film dedicated to the multiverse. Due to McGuire's return to No Way Home, if Sony decides to move forward with the project, many would agree that seeing Raimi back in the director's chair would be a fitting tribute. In more recent months, Sony reacted to rumors about Sam Raimi reuniting with Tobey on Twitter. However, Sony's Twitter page is just that, just a social team, and I don't think anyone from the production team really sees most of the posts or mentions. Rather than actually confirming or denying the possibility of Sam Raimi back behind the camera for a Spider-Man movie, the social media team is poking fun at just how many people have tweeted Sony about the Tobey Maguire rumor. All this news comes from Raimi himself, nothing directly from Tobey. It would be incredible to see Tobey once again, but given he was 44 at the time of filming for No Way Home, it's unlikely to see him as the main protagonist in a film that requires a lot of movement and stunts, even if he does use a stunt double. Andrew Garfield even came out and said that he would love to work with Tobey again after filming No Way Home. He's such a great actor and a good buddy, and I just love him. I love spending time with him. I would love to make something with him, for sure. As open as Tobey was when he got the call to come back to reprise his role as Spider-Man,
when they called initially, I was like, finally. I just feel grateful. I got the call and I was really open immediately about coming to do this, not without nerves and like, well, what's that look like? And, you know, what would that experience be? But to get to show up with beautiful, talented, creative people and play together, it's just like a yes.
With his age, even if they did another film, I'm not sure how much he would still be invested in the story. Perhaps he closed his chapter in the franchise with No Way Home. In Hollywood these days, though, you never say never. Nobody expected the stars of the previous film franchise, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, to put on their suits again, yet there they were. Tobey said himself years ago that there's some familiarity about working with the same person and was working on making the story the best it could be.
there are certain dynamics and relationships that have continuity, you know, and myself, Sam Raimi, the director, and we have a certain banter or dynamic that's fun and funny, and I love collaborating with him. So there's some familiarity that I really love, and also I like the new, and okay, how do we press this? How do we make it more exciting, more fun? How do we evolve the character and make it a rich story?
Due to some complications with the story and disagreements with how the plot was laid out and how it made sense, the entire thing was pushed aside. If you pay close attention, it's obvious that Tobey has been on board with Spider-Man since he first signed on, and even with his age at the time of filming No Way Home, when getting the call, he went all in regardless of what he had to do. Spider-Man 3 introduced us to Venom versus Spider-Man. Maybe it wasn't that much of a battle scene, but it was Venom versus Spider-Man. But I think what people more so are asking for is a different version of that fight. Tom Holland versus Tom Hardy. In the first few scenes, we know that Peter now has his life together. He's got the girl of his dreams, he's concluded the chapter of his life with Uncle Ben. The only thing left is straightening out his friendship with Harry. For the sake of today's deep dive, we have to ignore the events of Tom Holland's No Way Home, otherwise the continuous storyline for these characters wouldn't make sense. So assuming the villains in Tobey Maguire's third Spider-Man haven't seen each other since the ending, my theory is that it would play out something like this. After the attack on Peter, Harry doesn't seem to remember the events that took place, only that he woke up in a hospital after flying around. He reflects a lot of his dad having amnesia, however, Peter was still there for him, possibly believing that was the issue. During the festival, honoring Spider-Man for saving Gwen, Peter decides to let her kiss him for the crowd's reaction. Of course, MJ doesn't like this, and this becomes the beginning of the climax of the film. Peter later learns that detectives caught the wrong killer for his uncle, making Sandman a target as a villain for this installment of the film. What I also forgot is that the black Venom suit was a separate suit. He had a change of character from the symbiote forming onto his suit, and only while he was wearing the suit. He realizes this almost instantly, but because of what he's continuously being put through with MJ, Harry, and Marco, he still uses it. Also, with this version of Venom, he knew who Peter Parker was, so I really believe that all these rumors about Spider-Man 4 could be a stir-up for a Venom vs. Spider-Man that everyone has been wanting, especially since he was the only villain that didn't come into play with No Way Home, even though he knew his identity. From the fight with Eddie and Peter, we got to see Venom's weakness, fire and sound. At the time, it wasn't specified that it was Venom, just the black version of the suit. I really think the ending was a big opening to the potential Tobey can bring to the big screen once again, especially with the audience's reaction to seeing him again. Spider-Man is a big theme when it comes to Tobey. It's what he's most known for in the original Spider-Man based on Stan Lee's creation.
Sam Raimi and this guy, they made Spider-Man. It couldn't have been what it was without this guy. He is the greatest.
Thank you, Stan.
And I'm a jealous guy. I wanted to be Peter Parker. So if I say how good he is, you can believe me.
In a recent interview with Rolling Stone, Sam Raimi was asked a few questions. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is back as part of the Marvel multiverse thanks to No Way Home. So would you be open to making some version of a Spider-Man movie again after all this time? If there wasn't a great story there, I think it'd be my love for characters hasn't diminished one bit. It would be the same things that would stop me now that stopped me then. Does Tobey want to do it? Is there an emotional arc for him? Is there a great conflict for this character? And is there a worthy villain that fits into the theme of the piece? There's a lot of questions that would have to be answered. If those could be answered, I'd love to. Part of what made your Spider-Man movies work is that they really were Peter Parker's story, and the simplicity, humanity, and sweetness of the love story, which wasn't necessarily what people expected from you. That was something that I always found so appealing in Stan Lee's Spider-Man comic books, that Peter Parker had a love story going on, and in fact, there were two different women that he was interested in over the course of his series. But I remember as a kid thinking, I gotta get the next Spider-Man comic book because I'm really into the romance of it. Not that I would tell the other boys at school because I was embarrassed. When it comes to the amount of revenue from the box office that all three Spider-Man movies have made with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, with all three of his films have made $2,508,000,000. Andrew Garfield's version bringing in $1,467,000,000, and Tom almost surpassing $4 billion, with $3 billion $904 million. With Doctor Strange's ability with the multiverse, it was this that made it possible and made it make sense that other Spider-Man could appear in one film. A lot of people were more excited to see Tobey as he was the original version that Stan Lee created. But what do you guys think? There is a tremendous amount of potential for another one of Tobey's films, but would you be interested in seeing another version of Tobey, or rather Andrew? Only time will tell. That Sony and Sam Raimi will decide, and honestly, who knows if they even keep us updated or just surprise us like they did with No Way Home. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below.
Thank you. I just want to, I want to tell you that I really don't know how to say this.
Peter.
I want you to know that
You know.